guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So it has been a while since I filmed because I was on vacation. I was over in Vegas and we had some fun. And then when we got back, I just needed a break. I needed to decompress a little bit and I didn't have the energy to film. So I am back and I have the last update to the series I'm doing on my channel. So this one is the basement series. There's something happening in my basement. It's a very creepy story and I do have the third and final update. This one is titled The Basement Part 3, No Choices Left. And it's from the same Reddit author, Gator Swamp Witch. And I'm super excited to dive into the rest of the story because the ending is very creepy and I'm glad that we finally got an update, even though I say finally, but it's literally been like 2 weeks. We got an update and I'm very excited. So I will have all of the stories linked down below in my description box if you guys want to go read them yourselves or if you want to go read the author's other work. Everything will be listed down below. As per usual, I have my wicked candle in here making the home smell like caramel apples, and let's jump into the spooky story. Ultra quick summary for those who just want to read this. When I was a kid, I encountered some kind of awful creature in my grandparents' basement. 20 years later, I went back to their old house to make peace with what had happened, only for it to follow me home and torment my every waking and unconscious moment. I felt like I was constantly being watched from every dark corner. I would constantly see it in the corner of my eye, just waiting for me to slip up. By that point, I wasn't sure if it was the lack of sleep messing with me or if I was really seeing it in the shadows. I was really starting to lose it, or maybe I was being blinded by the bright light 24/7. Whenever the light touched the places it touched me, it burned and stung horribly, but it was something I resigned myself to having to get used to. Every time I fell asleep, it was waiting for me in my dreams. They'd always start off as more or less normal dreams, and then suddenly, I'd get plunged into darkness, and it would start its awful fucking two-toned whisper screaming into my head. It happened so many times, it was starting to feel almost normal, in a really fucked up way. I knew when I went to sleep, it would be there without fail. It was amazing what humans could get used to. Nonetheless, it still terrified me to my core, and I'd wake up drenched in sweat and panting like I'd just run a 10K marathon. Every day was starting to feel more like being in hell. The people around me could tell even. Everyone was constantly asking me what was going on and whispering when they thought I wasn't watching. What could I even say other than I was just tired? I suffered in silence as best as I could, up until my partner started having nightmares about it too. I knew the second he woke up from one of those dreams what had happened. The paleness, the sheer terror on his face, the way he looked at me, I just knew. It's one thing to relentlessly plague me, but my loved ones, that required action. It was the last thing I wanted, but I did know one place I could find information, my grandparents' old house. That book was probably still in the basement where I had left it. I sat on my bed for a long time, agonizing over what I should do. I really didn't want to go back. I punched the wall, I cried, I screamed into pillows, I pleaded with any higher power to save me, but ultimately, I knew I really didn't have any other option. No one was going to save me from this. Finally, after hours of going back and forth with pros and cons, I decided to just go before I changed my mind. I grabbed my flashlight, lanterns, glow sticks, and anything else that emitted light, as I could fit into my bag. Please tell me you're not doing what I think you're doing. I heard a voice from behind me as I was about to leave. It was my partner, standing in the hallway, looking lost, but also angry. You're just going to walk right into its trap. You know it wants you to go back. Whatever it is, it wants you to interact with it. Please don't do this. I sighed heavily. I didn't want to go back there. I know it's going to be waiting for me, but this has to end. I'd rather die fighting than live in fear of this thing for the rest of my life. If you die in there, you will always have lived in fear for the rest of your life. This is stupid. I don't know what that fucking thing is, but clearly it wants to do terrible things, and you're just going to let it. He sounded furious, but I could tell he was just really scared, as was I. I have to do this. I didn't want to live like this. I've spent the last 20 years of my life being scared. It had to stop, one way or another. He argued that he was coming with me. If he can't stop me, he's at least not going to let me do this alone. Now I heard nothing but fear in his voice, despite his best attempts to hide it. I begged him to stay and just let me handle this. I didn't want to lose him, but I really wasn't sure this was something I was going to survive. And ultimately, I realized I couldn't really stop him even if I tried. Even if I sped off in my own car without him, he'd just follow me in his own. He knew where I was going. It was about 4 p.m. when we arrived at the house. It still hadn't been sold, But since I hadn't told anyone I was coming, it was completely locked up. We walked around the perimeter, checking to see if any windows were open, but they were all locked. We were standing in the driveway when we heard a loud crash coming from the back of the house. Before we even got to the source, I knew exactly what it was. The cellar doors I had scrambled out of so many years ago were now wide open. Pieces of the chain that had been hung up, keeping it shut, were scattered around on the ground. We looked at each other with the "what the fuck, are we really going to do this" look. My partner and I brought solar-powered floodlights and positioned them all around the basement windows and at the cellar entrance. I thought at one point I heard a noise coming from the basement as it filled with light, but I pushed past the racing thoughts and kept focusing on the task at hand. I did my best to remain angry at the creature for ruining my life and fucking with my partner. But I had to admit, it wasn't really working. I have no words to properly express how deeply terrified this thing is. No description could ever truly do it justice, but here's the best way I can think of to explain the feeling it gives me. Imagine you're swimming in a deep, murky water, and then you see an alligator swimming towards you. Its eyes are locked on you. You realize you're extremely far from land, and then the alligator vanishes under the water. Imagine how you'd feel at that moment. You know it's in the water. You know it's watching you. You know you're not safe. You just don't know when the bite is coming and you'll be dragged under. That's how every day of my life has felt since the creature came into it. Once the basement was lit up brighter than New York City skyline, we worked up the courage to go in. Something was immediately off though. The few things that had been left down there when me and my mom had visited looked to have been violently thrown around the room. There were torn book pages and broken glass from the light bulbs scattered everywhere. My partner gave me a look, pleading with me to get the hell out of there, but I pressed on. As I walked past the basement stairs, I saw the same leather journal that had been haunting my dreams sitting in the exact same spot as before, open. I closed my eyes and I took a breath before finally picking it up. The way it felt in my hands made me want to throw up, but I resisted the urge. It was painfully cold, just like the thing's touch, and the leather felt wet and fleshy. Nothing even comparable to normal leather. It felt more like holding a cold, wet corpse than a book. The page that was open was the page of my childhood drawing of the creature. I angrily ripped it out of the book and shredded it to confetti and stomped on the pieces. I yelled, "I know you can hear me." I looked down at the book, and under that page were the words, "with pleasure." That made my heart stop dead. I threw the book back into the ground and I began to slowly back away from it. Just then, I heard the front door open above me. My partner gave me a horrified look while inching back towards the cellar stairs. I put my hand up to him to tell him to stop and be quiet. I heard a voice call out from somewhere above us. "We're going to get arrested for trespassing." My partner whispered, yelled at me, trying to motion me to follow him, but I kept my hand up, listening. "Hello?" the voice repeated. I knew it was that thing trying to lure me upstairs, away from the lights. I yelled as I slammed my fist against the railing of the stairs. "Come down and face me in the light." Just then, I heard a loud laugh. "Too scared to come face me yourself?" The voice changed mid-sentence from the human voice it had been using back to its own. I turned to look at my partner, who was now standing a few feet from the cellar stairs, wide-eyed and pale. He looked beyond distraught. He extended his hand towards me while continuing to back up closer to the stairs. I just shook my head. I wasn't going to keep running away. I wasn't willing to keep living in fear anymore, despite my heart practically beating out of my chest. This had to stop. "I'm not scared of you." I walked towards the bottom of the stairs and I stared up, waiting for it to appear. I heard something resembling a laugh as the entire house began to shake violently. I'd never experienced an earthquake, but I had to imagine this was close to what it felt like. The house made disturbingly strange groans and creaks, and dust and debris fell from the ceiling. I saw cracks beginning to shoot down the concrete basement walls. The rumbling was so loud, it was deafening. It was so intense, it made me involuntarily drop to my knees, covering my ears. All the while, I could hear that thing laughing. As suddenly as it started, it stopped. I looked back at my partner, who was also kneeling on the floor with his hands over his head. "We need to get the fuck out of here." He scrambled over to me, grabbing me firmly by the wrist and pulling me towards the cellar entrance. I almost tried to resist him, but I didn't really want to be down there anymore either. The fear was becoming too much to process. The floodlights from outside died, with the sound of it being crushed violently. then the next. This continued all the way around to the ones lighting the cellar steps. My partner was practically sprinting towards the cellar stairs, and it slammed shut forcefully on us. I started pulling glow sticks out of my bag, snapping them and throwing them everywhere frantically. I grabbed out the brightest flashlight and faced them towards myself and my partner. He tried with all his strength to push the cellar doors open, but they wouldn't move. We pushed with all of our strength, but still, with both of us, they didn't budge. We kept pushing against the doors. It felt like maybe we were starting to get some leverage when something whacked the top of the door so hard it knocked us both backwards down the stairs. My partner grabbed his phone and started dialing 911, but his phone immediately shut off. We shouldn't have come down here. What are we going to do? He tried several times to get it to turn on, followed by my phone, but they were both completely dead, despite having been fully charged when we arrived. I heard something moving swiftly above us, followed by the sound of the basement door creaking open. I pointed the brightest flashlight at the steps, but nothing was there. My partner went back to struggling to push the cellar door open, but he was getting absolutely nowhere. With loud pops of the bulbs exploding, the flashlights went out, one by one, leaving the dim reddish glow of the glow sticks scattered around on the floor around us. "I'm not scared of you," I tried to say firmly, but it came out shaky at best. I could hear my partner still desperately pushing against the door, trying to get it open. Part of me kept praying I was going to wake up at home in my well-lit bedroom, but that didn't happen. I heard it start moving down the stairs, each step creaking loudly as it moved. I saw its long, bony fingers as its hideous rotten black nails caressed the railing almost playfully. Every moment of its body making those horrible crackling pops like it was painfully dislocating joints with every movement. I quickly cracked more glow sticks and I shoved them into my partner's hands. I looked him in the eyes and I gave him a knowing look. I tried to take in every detail of him. I had an unbearable pit in my stomach that this would be the last time I ever got to look at him. As I stood up and I turned away from him, I felt him slide something into my back pocket. I knew what it was immediately, without having to look at it. I took a deep breath and I stepped towards the middle of the basement. As it finished descending down the stairs, it slowly turned to face me directly. It seemed bigger than it had been before. It was hunched down to keep from hitting the ceiling. As its eyes locked with me, it smiled, revealing its rows upon rows of disgusting needle-like teeth. If you've ever seen the inside of a sea turtle's mouth, picture that, but worse. I'd never seen a smile before, but I wish I hadn't. It made every cell in my body scream at me to run, but there was nowhere to go. It had us trapped, and it knew it. I tried to take a step forward, but all I could manage was shaking my legs slightly. I felt like someone had switched Earth's gravity out for Jupiter's, like I was being crushed where I stood. It tilted its head slightly, but said nothing. Abruptly, all the glow sticks scattered around the floor were flung backwards against the basement walls, silhouetting the creature's outline in the dim red glow. I heard the creature let out a disturbing, loud groan. Before I could think or do anything else, it was on me. Its bony hands clasped around my throat, tightly as it lifted me off the ground and pulled me centimeters from its face. The searing pain of its icy touch shot through my body like a shotgun at point-blank range. I felt my body fading again, as it had the last time it touched me. I was struggling to breathe and stay conscious. I reached into my back pocket and I grabbed what my partner had placed there, an ultra-bright distress flare we bought for our camping trip. I heard the click of a lighter from behind me as the flare burst to life. While the creature was fixated on me, my partner had been slowly inching towards us. With the last ounce of strength, I swung my arm up as quickly as I could, and I shoved the flare directly into the thing's mouth. Its horrible teeth shredding my hands as I pulled it back. I heard a piercing scream come out from the thing as it hit the ground, and then darkness. Not sure how long I was unconscious for exactly, but the next thing I remember is my partner's terrified face looking down. He was shaking me by the shoulders and pleading for me to wake up. Once he saw that I was conscious again, he pulled me off the floor and hugged me. I winced as I painfully lifted my arms and tugged him back. My body was in agony, but it didn't compare to the relief that neither of us were dead. I had really thought I'd seen him for the last time in my life. "What happened to it?" I asked as I tried to scan around the basement. It was still only being lit up by the glow sticks against the wall, but I could see some kind of black ooze all over the floor. My partner just kept hugging me for a while before he finally told me. It made some kind of horrible wailing, screaming noise and started leaking this black ooze out of its mouth. The noise is seared into my brain. It was kind of thrashing and flailing around for a second before it, I don't know, burst into this bizarre whitish looking flame and then completely vanished. I don't know if that was really it dying or if that's just how it left. I don't know. I really don't. But please, let's get out of here. I sat for a few minutes trying to get enough strength back to get on my feet. My throat burned and stung horribly where it had touched me. I touched it gently and it sent a shockwave of pain through my body, almost knocking me out again. Once I was finally able to stand, we gathered up our stuff. We debated if we should try to do anything about the black stuff all over the basement floor, but decided neither of us were willing to touch it. The basement had been pretty fucked up before we even came down there. We felt bad for whoever's problem this was, but we decided we should leave before any police get involved. Before we left, I looked at the book on the floor again. My partner came over to look at it too, and then aggressively kicked it against the wall, landing in one of the puddles of black ooze. He looked back at me, and I nodded approvingly. By the time we finally left, it was dark outside. Hours had passed somehow, but at this point, it felt more like a lifetime. As we shut the cellar doors and placed all the broken chain pieces back on top, I felt a huge wave of relief wash over me. Even if it wasn't dead, it felt like my world had changed. I had at least heard it pretty badly, if nothing else. I was standing in the darkness, and although feeling weak, and like I aged 50 years in those few hours, I wasn't afraid for the first time in my life. It's been about a week, and I haven't seen it while awake or in my dreams, and neither has my partner. Something deep in my soul feels that it probably isn't dead, but maybe we heard it enough to keep it away, at least for a while. I'll take what I can get. Any amount of time I get to live free of this torment, I count as a win. It's nice to be able to enjoy the darkness finally. It almost feels comforting. And that's how they ended the story. Oh my God. So obviously I had to split this one up into 3 parts because all of the parts weren't updated or uploaded when I originally started reading this series. But I'm so glad that I split this up because this ended up being a fairly long video. I wasn't really expecting it to be like 20 minutes for this video. I thought this was going to be like a shorter update, but that was a really great ending. I do like that it was a happier ending. I'm hoping this thing is dead, and I don't know if the author actually has any plans on furthering the story or if this is just going to be the end, but that was a really good update. I thought that it was just creepy enough for my channel, and honestly I wanted to know what happened because I was very curious, and the author messaged me a couple days ago telling me that they posted the 3rd part, and I was so excited to go read it. So this is where I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this little series that I had on my channel. If you guys are interested in me doing more series similar to this, please let me know and I will try to find them as best as I can, because I personally really like the series. I like the idea of like waiting for an update. I just think that it's really fun. So let me know in the comments down below if you guys do enjoy the series, or if you guys just like me reading just like random stories that I can find and like posting as many stories as I can in a video, because I can also do that as well. I just like reading one story in one video if I can find longer stories, because it makes for a better video in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. If you guys made it to the end of the video, leave me your favorite monster or Halloween emoji in my comment section, letting me know you guys made it to the end. Also, it helps boost my video on the algorithm, and YouTube changed something with their algorithm and they're not promoting my videos as much as they used to. So it would really help me if you guys could like, comment, share, and do anything possible that you can to get eyes on my videos, because that would really help me a lot and lets the algorithm know that you guys are actually watching and you guys are actually interested. So thank you so much for watching, and if you guys have any creepy stories that you want to share with the channel, please feel free to reach out either over my Instagram or over my email, and I will definitely read your guys' creepy stories. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye!